Hi everyone. Today markets basically went straight up. We gapped to the level 599, pushed to the next one 603.20, and then after hours a little bit of a push, pulling back to it now 603.25. Let's take a look at the charts and see if we can find some direction for tomorrow. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So we got Netflix earnings today to start off the real earnings season. We had a little bit of banks early, but now we're into the tech stocks. Netflix soaring on massive earnings, topping 300 million subscribers, adding a record 19 million subscribers. Absolutely massive. You can see it's up about 14% after hours. And Netflix is absolutely going to hit that $1,000 mark, it seems like at this point. If it hasn't touched it already, we'll take a look at it later, but 14% after hours, very, very strong. Record numbers. Audience is expected to exceed 700 million now at this point. Earnings per share, 427 versus 420. Revenues, 10.25 billion. Paid memberships, 301. It'll be interesting to see what happens once paid memberships stop being a reported number here for Netflix, but we're still getting the data now. And like I said, everything is just continuing to go higher seemingly with Netflix. And like I mentioned, they are going to stop doing subscriber counts. They're going to do an engagement report in the second and fourth quarter releases to see how much people are actually watching Netflix. And then on the slate, they do mention Squid Game 2, the Jake Paul fight with Mike Tyson, and then they did have NFL football on Christmas Day. So they continue to add to their repertoire, and this was a great quarter for Netflix. Moving over to Fear and Greed, this continues to improve here up to a 41 from a 37. We have momentum still in fear, strength and breadth climbing, but still in extreme fear. Put call ratio declining, but still in regular fear, and then volatility has broken down below those levels that we talked about. So everything seems to be swinging back towards a little bit of bullishness in markets, and it seems like we're going to get into that neutral category here within the next couple days, in my opinion. Moving over to earnings, Netflix crushing it. Like we said, Charles Schwab came out, 3M came out. Everything was good across the board pretty much. Just a little bit of red. And so far, earnings season has been quite good. For tomorrow, you got P&G, Abbott Labs, J&J, Discover, fairly interesting. Travelers want to see what that looks like. And then for the Thursday, you have GE Aerospace, United Pacific, definitely going to be looking at that one. McCormick, also a staple, interesting to look at. And then you have the airlines, American Airlines and Alaska Airlines here to round out the Thursday. Moving over to the earnings calendar, not a whole lot here for the Tuesday, basically nothing. And then Wednesday, pretty much nothing as well. 20-year bond auction, I expect that to go well at this point. And then for Thursday, initial jobless claims, crude inventories, 10-year tips. 10-year tips still sitting around that 2% level. And then basically nothing here for the Friday, just a little bit of S&P, global composite, as well as services, PMI, existing home sales, and Michigan data. So really not a whole lot today. Earnings is going to be driving the ship. Moving over to Max Pain just for a moment, you can see the Max Pain is lower across the board all the way through June of this year. So understand markets are absolutely going higher. Are they going to stay at these levels? Who knows? But for right now, Max Pain is to the downside. I don't expect that to have a huge impact in the short term, but at some point markets will come back to these levels. Then moving over to the S&Ps here, you can see we got an update, nearly 1%, right to the level 603.25 after gapping above the 599 level. Came back, touched that level, then continue higher. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, we said. Everything after the last couple days here looks strong after the breakout on the trend here. I think we're going to go much higher at this point. I think we're going to at least hit the all-time high there at 607.03, which is the all-time high back from 6 December. So fairly decent pullback in the short term, about 5%, and now it seems like we're headed back to that all-time high. So we'll see how it plays out. Right now, everything does look a little bit bullish. And then looking at the short term here, you can see through the session, it was basically straight up on the S&Ps. Very shallow pullback, 599.64 was the level. And then you can see after hours, pretty big up candles there from the Netflix move. So sitting right on top of 603.25, if it can hold that, looking for 607. Moving over to the Tasty charts, I just wanted to highlight here that we are still in bearish conditions on the daily chart, waiting to see what happens when we get to that all-time high, which is actually a little bit different on this chart, which is interesting. The all-time high based on that 6 December is actually 609.07, not the same as on the previous chart. I wonder if there was a little bit of a correction there, but Current ATR trailing stop 607.94, and it seems like we're going to hit that level, and then we'll see what happens. Does it cut through there and resume this kind of upward move, or is this going to be a bit of a retest and then a breakdown from there? Certainly a potential. So watching that level closely, I do think we're going to touch it. Then looking at the hourly chart, not a whole lot to say, just continues to hit that upper band, continues to grind higher. Volume on the day was at the end of the session, continued to go higher after that. So everything says on the short time frames, this should continue to go bullish. And then moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis to everything else, gapped a little bit higher and dojied, could not get above 126.50, and we didn't touch it during the mid-session, but now in the after hours, we are right at that level. 526.56 is the after hours price. Momentum bullish, RSI still bullish. Everything says this should continue to go a little bit higher. Extending out that trend line, we might see a little bit of resistance in here, 527.60 or so, pretty much right at the highs from that 7 January candle. We'll see if it can cut through that and push back towards those all-time high levels, which right now is 538.28 back from the 16 December candle. And then looking at that short term, a little bit more choppy here on the Qs. It was underperforming during the session, not as straight up as we saw on the SPY charts. But now we're pushing into that zone. You can see we hit the trend after hours. We'll see if it rejects from there. Current support, 526.50. Everything says this should continue to go, but it wouldn't shock me to see at least a little bit of a pullback from that trend. Higher low setup, and then if we get the continuation, your next level is that 530.08 level for me. And then looking at the Tasty charts here for the Qs, you can see very similar, hitting that upper band, kind of pulling back in time, rallying back to the upper band. This does look a little bit like it's contracting here in time and space. Just understand that's probably a rising wedge type formation. Might see some pullbacks from there, higher low setup continuation. We also didn't really get any volume here, so a little bit of rising price action, not a ton of volume. Watching these levels carefully as we head into the next couple days with big earnings. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. The Russell had a good day, 1.92%, gapped up and rallied throughout the session, broke the level 229.18, so that's the range now, 229.18 to 232. We're right at the 55 EMA. You got trend resistance here at 230. Overall still looks good, momentum is bullish. And then looking at the Dow, good move there, 1.24%, trend just above it, level here 441.43. If that breaks, I'll start to look at some structures in here. Right now the low of that range is kind of the 445.20 area, but we're still in this range here, watching the trend. Momentum and RSI both bullish. Moving over to Nike, just wanted to highlight this level we've been talking about, 70.75. We touched it back here in August of 24. We touched it again in January of 25, and now we got a nice up candle there. 3.29%. I think we're going to catch this bounce a little bit more. I think there's more in it. Clear long-term double bottom. Price doesn't want to dip too much below this, but we'll see how it goes. That's your support. Last time we got a decent move off of this level that resulted in about a 14.5% move from there. So just something to watch for. I think there's more in it on Nike. Then moving over to Netflix, here we have the trend on the 12-hour chart. We broke through this trend. You can see that candle there, 13.99%. Absolutely massive, just continues to go straight up seemingly. It's been rallying for basically forever, it feels like. The lows back here, June of 22, all the way down in $170, and since then we are all the way up at $993. Like I said, I think we're probably going to 1,000 at least. We'll have the big psychological number. We'll see what happens. Obviously super overbought, but huge catalyst, and it is up big time. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, you can see Apple down 3.19%, absolutely massive, continuing to fall. It was down even more during the session, but then it bounced a little bit from the trend here. Fully round trip this move back to November. The low of that was around 220, and we did touch that level here in today's session. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish, full round trip at this point. Looks like a medium to long-term consolidation, and I do think this will likely break down eventually. Looks like a distribution at this point. You can see distribution, tried to break out, retrace, we'll probably get some more distribution here. And then if this starts to break down, that is going to be catastrophic here for Apple. And then similarly here on Microsoft, we've been talking about this distribution forever. It's been in the same trading range for a long time. I still think it is going to break down at some point. It was negative on the day, even with markets being positive, 0.12 to the downside. Just below the level there, 429.88 after hours, getting a really good pop off of the Netflix move. Interesting. I wonder why they're seeing a little bit of a sympathy play there, but 229.88 is the level. If it can get to 440, that's your next resistance. Definitely curious to see what this does tomorrow with that after hours price action, sitting basically at the highs from the Friday session. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla down about 0.5%. It was down a lot more, but then it ended up holding for 1450. It's down a little bit after hours, about 1%. We'll see how that plays out. But overall, still holding this kind of same range we've been in, despite the news of the government subsidies for EVs kind of coming off here today. And then NVIDIA up about 2.25%. Very nice, right to the level 140.76. If it can hold that level, then we're pushing to 140. After hours, we're up about $3, so it's probably going to go. Nice move here, continuing to the level. We talked about this double bottom in here. It's had that pretty solid continuation. If it breaks 140, probably looking for that move back to all-time highs. Overall looks pretty good here for NVIDIA into tomorrow's session. Moving over here to Amazon and Alphabet. Amazon up 2%, headed right towards that 233 level. We talked about the breakout here, got the continuation right to those all-time highs almost. And then Google did exactly what we thought it was going to do. Gapped up, hit the trend, rejected from there, selling after hours. Just cannot seem to get above this level there. This trend here, we've touched it nearly 4 times at this point. Is it going to get above it and push? Maybe. I would say probably not, but it seems possible with this basically 3rd/4th touch at this point. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Moving over here to staples and discretionary. Staples breaking out above the 77.50 level. We hit VWAP. We'll see what happens now. Momentum bullish. Volume coming through. I think staples is in a great opportunity here to go a couple of percentage points higher. And then looking at discretionaries, little bounce there as well. 0.73 to the upside. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Still think this is headed towards the trend at 236.26. Moving over to financials and oil and gas. Financials continue to charge higher over the last 6 days straight. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, headed towards the all-time high, I think, at 51.60. And then looking at oil and gas did finally pivot at that 145.92 level like we thought that it would. Current support 140.88. I would expect that's probably going to break, maybe come down to 135. Higher low setup in here, that would be great. And then continuation up to 154, potentially in play. Been a wide-ranging consolidation. We haven't really broken in either direction, but for right now it does look a little bearish. Moving over to 20 and 50-day breadth, you can see 20 jumped 10% or so back into the 80s now. This is about as high as it goes. We're already there, waiting to see what happens. Is it going to sideways consolidate? Are we going to pull back over the next couple days? Potentially. We're already overbought here on 20-day breadth. It's a very deep pullback. We're hitting those clear zones of resistance. What's it going to look like? And then looking at 50-day here, you can see getting just barely above the 50 mark. So we're seeing continued improvement on that. We're right to the level. 52.81 is your next one. 200 and the 144 in there. Momentum bullish, RSI still bullish. So seems like this is going to continue to go higher. Just understand that 20 is now pretty much at peak levels. Moving over to the dollar, big sells on the dollar. Look at that huge gap down. Tried to fill some of the gaps, continued to sell here right to the level. 108 is the level. Technically, we're above it right now. Wednesday session, you can see it's already started. We're right at the level. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. I think the dollar might pull back a little bit. We're closed well below the 21 on today's session, headed towards that 55 at 107.17. Be interesting to see what happens. Wouldn't shock me to see a little bit of pullback and then continuation lower to those next levels. But if the dollar continues to pull back a little bit, which I believe that it should, that should give equities a little bit more strength. So overall, fitting with the general bullish thesis. Moving over to bonds. Bonds continue to look good. 0.29 and 0.89 to the upside. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, continuing to head towards that 89 level. Buying opportunity. We talked about it. Hopefully you bought some, and now we're headed higher in my opinion. Moving over to the VIX. VIX broke the trend, so now we're back towards that 14.7 level. Probably going to head a little bit lower. I would expect that to break tomorrow, and then we'll see if it gets back into that 13 to 14 range. That could be interesting. Right now, it seems like it's going to go at least a little bit lower. Moving over to my accounts, I made a little bit of money. I really just wanted to get back on my feet. I had a pretty rough week last week, and I wanted to make some smart moves, and sure enough, we did. Made a little bit of money. Good positions here. For the IWM, I'm watching that 229 level. If it continues to hold above that, I'll hold this position, allowing the Russell to potentially move to that 232 level. But if it breaks below that, then I'm going to be in a weaker position. So you can see I bought at 228. Overall, Russell continues to look good in there. After hours, it is down just a smidgen, but watching it closely. And then for the Qs, I sold a 521 and 522 for tomorrow, right at the end of the session. Thought we were going to go higher, and we did. You can see we're up nearly $3 after hours, way more than honestly I would have expected, because I was pretty cautious here. But overall, Liking these moves. If we hold above 226.50, I'll probably get into some shares tomorrow and look for that bigger continuation. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of Netflix. What did you think of markets today? Can they go that much higher? Are we headed back to all-time highs? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.